The hospital billing department called again at 2:47 inches the morning. Jennifer Chen didn't answer. She already knew what they wanted, the $47,000 she didn't have for Lily's treatment. Her daughter's leukemia didn't care about payment plans or insurance denials, or the fact that Jennifer had already sold everything they owned except the 2009 Toyota Camry they were currently sleeping in. Lily stirred in the back seat, her bald head catching the yellow glow from the parking lot lights. She was 7 years old and weighed 42 pounds. The chemo had stolen her hair, her appetite. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. And her childhood. But it hadn't stolen her smile. Not yet. Mom? Her voice was small, papery. I'm here, baby. Go back to sleep. Are we going home soon? Jennifer's throat tightened. They didn't have a home. Not anymore. The apartment was gone 3 months ago, when she'd been fired for missing too many shifts to take Lily to treatment. The motel they'd bounced between cost $65 a night, money better spent on medication. So now they slept in the car, rotating between 3 different Walmart parking lots in Sacramento, trying not to attract attention. Soon, sweetheart. Soon. It was a lie. Jennifer had become very good at lying. She checked her phone. Battery at 8%. Bank account at $127.33. Gas tank at a quarter full. Lily's next chemo appointment was in 6 days, and the hospital had already warned her, no payment, no treatment. They'd been accommodating long enough. Jennifer was 29 years old, a former dental hygienist with a degree she couldn't use anymore because no one would hire someone who needed to leave for medical emergencies twice a week. She had no family. Her parents had died in a car accident when she was 19. Lily's father had left the moment the diagnosis came, changing his number and disappearing like he'd never existed. It was just the two of them. Alone. Running out of time. The email came at 6:23 inches the morning. Jennifer woke to find her phone nearly dead and 3 new messages. 2 were from bill collectors. The third had a subject line that made her blink. Estate notification. Raymond Chen. Deceased. Raymond Chen. Her father's older brother. Uncle Ray. Jennifer sat up slowly, careful not to wake Lily. She'd met Uncle Ray exactly twice in her life. Once at her father's funeral, where he'd stood in the back and left before the reception, and once when she was maybe 5 years old, a vague memory of a stern man in work clothes who smelled like diesel fuel and didn't smile. Her father had mentioned him occasionally, always with a mix of sadness and frustration. Ray went his own way, he'd say, made his choices. The family had lost contact decades ago. Jennifer opened the email. Dear Miss Chen, this is to inform you that you have been named as the sole beneficiary in the estate of Raymond Chen, deceased as of November 18th. Mr. Chen was your paternal uncle. As his only surviving relative, you are entitled to his remaining assets and property. Please contact Winters and Associates Legal Services at your earliest convenience to discuss the transfer. Time-sensitive matter. Estate must be settled within 45 days or assets will be liquidated by the county. Thomas Winters, Esquire. Jennifer read it 3 times, her hands shaking. An inheritance from Uncle Ray, the man who'd lived like a hermit and died alone. She called the number immediately. A receptionist answered, professional and brisk, and transferred her to Thomas Winters. His voice was older, patient. Miss Chen, thank you for calling so quickly. I've been trying to reach you. I'm sorry. I've been. She trailed off. How do you explain you've been homeless? What did my uncle leave me? There was a pause, papers shuffling. A property. It's a commercial building in Marysville, about 45 minutes north of Sacramento. Your uncle purchased it in 1987, a former diamond sorting facility that had been abandoned. He lived there until his death. A diamond sorting facility. Jennifer tried to picture it and couldn't. What's it worth? Another pause, longer this time. Miss Chen, I need to be honest with you. The property is in severe disrepair. The building is structurally compromised. Partial roof collapse, foundation damage, significant flooding issues. The county has it listed as condemned. Your uncle owed $2,400 in back taxes. If those aren't paid within 45 days, the property goes to auction. Jennifer's hope deflated like a punctured balloon. So, it's worthless. I wouldn't say worthless. The land itself is 4 acres, but the building would likely cost more to demolish than it's worth. We've had it appraised at $750, including the land. That's being generous. $750. Enough for maybe 2 nights in a motel and a week of groceries. Not enough to change anything. But then Jennifer thought about the car they were sleeping in, about the hospital bills crushing her, about Lily coughing in the back seat. A roof was a roof, even a collapsed one. What do I need to do to claim it? She asked. 2 days later, Jennifer sat in Thomas Winter's office with Lily beside her. The office was above a hardware store in a town that looked like it had been forgotten by progress. Winters was in his 60 seconds, with kind eyes that lingered on Lily's bald head with poorly concealed sympathy. I have to ask, he said gently. Are you sure about this? The building is not safe. The county inspectors strongly recommended demolition. Do I have any other options? Jennifer asked. You could sell it, though finding a buyer would be difficult at that valuation. How long would that take? He hesitated. Months, possibly. Maybe longer. Jennifer looked at Lily, who was drawing on a piece of paper Winters had given her. She was drawing a house with a big yard and a tree. She'd labeled it, Home. I'll take the property, Jennifer said. Winters nodded and pulled out a folder. The paperwork took 30 minutes. Jennifer signed her name over and over, her hand cramping. When it was done, Winters handed her a set of keys, 5 of them on a rusted ring, and a thick envelope. These are your uncle's personal effects. Some documents, letters, a journal. He left a note saying they should go to his heir. Winters paused. Miss Chen, your uncle was an unusual man. Very private, very deliberate. I handled his affairs for the last 15 years, and I can tell you he didn't do anything without a reason. If he left you this property, there was a purpose. Jennifer took the envelope, not sure what to say. Thank you. One more thing. Winters reached into his desk and pulled out a worn leather wallet. This was found with his belongings. There's $180 cash inside. It's yours. Jennifer stared at the bills, feeling tears threaten. At $180. Not much, but enough to buy gas and food. Enough to matter. Where is the property? She asked. About 15 minutes from here. I'll write down the address. He scribbled on a note card. And Miss Chen, be careful. That building is unstable. The drive took Jennifer down a rural highway, past farmland and empty fields, until she turned onto a gravel road that was more pothole than pavement. The GPS said she'd arrived, but all Jennifer saw was a chain-link fence partially collapsed, an overgrown lot, and beyond it, a structure that looked like it had been hit by a bomb. The diamond sorting facility was massive, maybe 150 feet long and 100 feet wide, made of corrugated metal and cinder block that had gone gray with age. Part of the roof had caved in on the right side, creating a jagged hole where rain and time had poured through. The windows were either broken or missing entirely. Graffiti covered the lower walls. Weeds grew through cracks in the concrete lot. It was horrifying. It was dangerous. It was theirs. Jennifer pulled through the gate and parked. Lily pressed her face to the window. Is this it? She asked. Yeah, baby. This is it. It looks scary. It looks like an adventure. Jennifer wasn't sure she believed that, but she forced a smile. They got out of the car. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. The air smelled like rust and standing water. Birds had nested in the eaves. Somewhere nearby, Jennifer heard the sound of a creek or drainage ditch. She walked to the front door, a heavy steel thing with 3 locks, and tried the keys. The third one turned with a grinding sound. She pushed the door open. Inside was darkness and the smell of mildew and rot. Jennifer pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through gloom, revealing a massive open space that had once been the facility floor. Metal sorting tables lined one wall, their surfaces rusted and tilted. Shelving units had collapsed in piles. There were broken conveyor belts, overturned filing cabinets, and everywhere the evidence of water damage. The floor was concrete, buckled and cracked. In places, puddles of stagnant water reflected her phone light like mirrors. But the ceiling where it hadn't collapsed was high, maybe 20 feet. Industrial light fixtures hung dark and broken. The walls, though stained, were solid cinder block. And in the back corner, she saw something. A small room with intact walls. A door that was closed. A space that looked dry. "Stay close to me," Jennifer told Lily. They walked carefully across the floor, testing each step. The concrete groaned but held. When they reached the back room, Jennifer tried the door. Locked. She went through the keys again and found one that fit. The room was maybe 15 feet by 15 feet. It had been an office once. There was a desk, a filing cabinet, a cot in the corner with a sleeping bag on it. This was where Uncle Ray had lived. This was where he died. But it was dry. The walls were intact. There was a small window with glass that wasn't broken. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. Jennifer felt something crack inside her, the facade she'd been holding together for months. She sank down onto the cot and started to cry. Not quiet tears, but deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. Lily climbed onto her lap, hugging her. "It's okay, Mama. We can fix it." Jennifer held her daughter and cried until there was nothing left. Then she wiped her face and looked around the room. "You're right," she whispered. "We can fix it." That first night, they slept in the office on Uncle Ray's cot. Jennifer piled every blanket they owned on top of Lily, terrified she'd get cold, terrified the building would collapse while they slept, terrified of everything. But nothing collapsed. They woke to morning light streaming through the small window, and for the first time in 3 months, Lily didn't wake up coughing. Over the next week, Jennifer started to make sense of the property. The main facility floor was unsalvageable, too much water damage, too much structural compromise. But there were other rooms, small storage areas, bathrooms that didn't work but could maybe be repaired. And the office, which became their home base. She found Uncle Ray's things. Boxes of documents, old equipment manuals, photographs of the facility in its working days. 1,970 seconds, she guessed, when it had been a legitimate business processing, industrial diamonds. The photos showed workers at sorting tables, machines she didn't recognize, trucks loading and unloading. And she found his journal, a thick notebook filled with cramped handwriting. She read it at night by the light of a battery-powered lantern she'd bought at the hardware store. Most entries were mundane, daily routines, weather observations, maintenance notes, but scattered throughout were personal reflections. The 14th of June, 1992, Brother David called, wanted me to come to Jennifer's birthday. Told him I couldn't. Better this way. Better they don't know what I'm protecting. Protecting? Jennifer read that line 3 times. The 3rd of August 1998. Spent the day resealing the floor sections. Must be thorough. Can't risk water damage to what's beneath. 40 years of work. Can't fail now. Beneath? The 7th of January 2004. Getting older. Hands don't work like they used to. But the collection is secure. When I'm gone, someone will find it. Someone, family, that's what matters. Collection. Jennifer's heart started pounding. She flipped through the journal faster, looking for more clues. But the entries became more cryptic, more careful. Uncle Ray had been hiding something. She thought about the diamond sorting facility, about why someone would live alone in a condemned building for 30 years, about what protecting meant. The next morning, while Lily played with her few remaining toys in the office, Jennifer started searching. She walked the facility floor carefully, examining every inch. The concrete was buckled and cracked in places, but in other areas, it seemed deliberate, like sections had been poured at different times. She found seams, straight lines in the concrete that formed rectangles approximately 4 feet by 6 feet. There were 6 of them, spaced evenly across the floor. Panels. They were removable panels. Jennifer found a crowbar in one of the storage rooms and brought it to the first panel. She wedged it into the seam and pried. Nothing. She tried again, harder. The concrete shifted slightly. She pried from a different angle, using all her weight. Suddenly, the panel lifted, revealing darkness beneath. Jennifer grabbed her phone and shined the light down. There was a space under the floor, maybe 3 feet deep, lined with wood, and inside that space were metal boxes, dozens of them. Her hands shook as she lowered herself down and pulled out the first box. It was heavy, sealed with a combination lock. She brought it up to the office and stared at it, her mind racing. She went back to Uncle Ray's journal, scanning for numbers. There, in an entry from 1995, combination set to father's birthday. 071643. Won't forget. Jennifer tried it. The lock clicked open. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, were diamonds. Not jewelry, raw stones. Industrial diamonds. Hundreds of them. Each one carefully sorted by size and quality. They gleamed in the morning light, like captured stars. Jennifer couldn't breathe. She opened another box. More diamonds. And another. More. The boxes kept coming. She counted 37 inches total, each one filled with stones that represented decades of careful accumulation. And at the bottom of the 6th panel, she found something different. A leather folder containing documents, receipts, appraisals, certificates of authenticity, all dated from the 1972 through the 2000s. Industrial Diamond Collection. Value Summary. Updated 2019. Estimated total $391 million. Jennifer's vision blurred. She read the number again. $391 million. Her uncle hadn't been protecting a building. He'd been protecting a fortune. She sat on the floor of the collapsed facility with her sick daughter sleeping in the office behind her, surrounded by boxes worth more money than existed in her understanding of the world. And she started laughing. Not from joy, from the sheer impossible insanity of it all. 3 months ago, she'd been a dental hygienist with insurance and a mortgage. 2 months ago, she'd been homeless. Yesterday, she'd had $127 to her name. Today, she was worth $391 million. And her daughter still had leukemia. Jennifer closed the boxes and hid them back under the floor. She sealed the panel and sat there for a long time, thinking about what came next. Because this wasn't a fairy tale. This was real life. And in real life, money this big didn't solve problems, it created them. She thought about Uncle Ray, who'd lived alone for 30 years protecting a secret he couldn't share, who'd died in this building with no one knowing what he'd guarded. And she understood. He'd been waiting for someone who needed it, someone family, someone like her. Jennifer opened the journal to the last entry. dated 2 weeks before his death. If you're reading this, you found it. Good. It was meant for you. Not for greed. For survival. Use it wisely. Trust no one. Protect what matters. And remember, the real treasure isn't in the boxes. It's in having something worth protecting. Jennifer looked toward the office where Lily slept. She understood. Tomorrow, she'd figure out what to do with $391 million in diamonds. Tomorrow, she'd deal with lawyers and taxes and dangers she couldn't imagine yet. But tonight, she'd hold her daughter and be grateful they had a roof, even a collapsed one, even a dangerous one. Because Uncle Ray had been right. The real treasure was having something worth protecting. And Jennifer Chen finally did. Over the next 3 days, Jennifer didn't tell anyone about her discovery. Not the hospital, not the billing department that called twice a day, not the social worker who'd started leaving messages about options for Lily's care. She kept searching the facility. Under the other panels, she found more boxes, some containing diamonds, others containing gold coins, rare minerals, certificates for bearer bonds. Uncle Ray had spent 40 years converting his diamond sorting business into a vault, hiding wealth in plain sight within a building everyone assumed was worthless. And he documented everything. In a fireproof safe hidden in the wall of the office, Jennifer found ledgers dating back to 1987. Every purchase, every acquisition, every stone catalogued with obsessive precision. The final ledger, dated 8 months before his death, showed the complete inventory. Industrial diamonds, various grades, $287 M gold reserves, $63 M rare earth minerals, $28 M bearer bonds, $13 M total estimated value, $391 M. Jennifer read it over and over, trying to make the numbers feel real. They didn't. $391 million was an abstraction, a number so large it lost meaning. But Lily's medical bills, those were real. $47,000 owed to the hospital, $23,000 to the oncology clinic, $8,000 to the pharmacy. Numbers that had been crushing her. Numbers that were suddenly, if she could figure out how to claim this fortune, meaningless. On the 4th day, Jennifer made a decision. She couldn't do this alone. She needed help. Real help. The kind that wouldn't try to steal from her, or manipulate her, or take advantage of her desperation. She remembered Thomas Winters, the lawyer who'd handled Uncle Ray's estate. He'd been kind to Lily. He'd mentioned Uncle Ray never did anything without a reason. Maybe he could be trusted. Jennifer called his office. "Mr. Winters? It's Jennifer Chen. I need to talk to you about my uncle's property." "Of course. Is everything all right?" Jennifer took a breath. "Can you come to the facility today, if possible? And can you bring someone who knows about valuable assets? Someone discreet?" There was a pause. "Miss Chen, did you find something? Please, just come." Winters arrived 3 hours later with another man, Dr. Marcus Webb, a gemologist and appraiser from San Francisco. They stood in the facility's main room, looking at the 6 opened panels and the boxes Jennifer had arranged on a clean tarp. Winters stared. Webb knelt down immediately, pulling on gloves, examining stones with a jeweler's loupe. "My God," Webb whispered. "These are. Where did these come from?" "My uncle spent 40 years collecting them," Jennifer said quietly. "He was in the diamond sorting business. I think he kept the best stones from every shipment that came through. Built this collection piece by piece." Webb looked up, his expression serious. "Miss Chen, do you understand what you have here? The ledger says $391 million. The ledger is conservative." Webb went back to examining stones. Industrial diamonds this size, this quality, They're used in cutting tools, medical equipment, aerospace applications. The demand is enormous. And these. He held up a stone the size of a marble. These are flawless, museum quality. Winters had been silent, but now he spoke. Jennifer, we need to talk about what happens next, because the moment this goes public, and it will go public, your life changes forever. They moved to the office. Lily was at a neighbor's house, a woman named Rita, who lived a mile away, and had agreed to watch her for a few hours. Jennifer sat on the cot while Winters and Webb explained the reality of sudden wealth. Taxes. The IRS would want their share, roughly 40% of the total value. Authentication. Every stone would need to be verified, graded, certified. That process alone could take months. Legal challenges. Someone would claim the diamonds were stolen, or that Uncle Ray didn't have rights to them, or that the facility's original owners deserved compensation. Security. Word would spread. People would come looking. Thieves, scammers, con artists, and media. The homeless mother who found $391 million. It would be international news. I just want to pay for my daughter's treatment, Jennifer said, her voice breaking. I just want her to be okay. Webb leaned forward. Then we need to be very smart about this. We sell slowly, selectively. We work with private buyers who value discretion. We keep your name out of it as long as possible. Can we do that? If we move quickly, yes. But Jennifer, you need to understand, even if we sell just 10% of this collection, you're looking at $40 million. That's enough to cover any medical treatment your daughter needs. Set up trust funds. Live comfortably for the rest of your life. $40 million. It was still incomprehensible. What do I do? She asked. Winters pulled out a legal pad. First, we establish a trust. That protects the assets and provides legal structure. Second, we hire security, discreet, professional, to watch this building until we can move the collection somewhere safe. Third, we bring in a tax attorney, someone who specializes in found assets and estate windfalls. And fourth, he paused, you decide what you want to do with it. What do you mean? Your uncle protected this for 40 years. He had a reason. He could have sold it, could have lived in luxury, but he didn't. He guarded it. The question is, what would he want you to do with it now? Jennifer thought about the journal entry. Not for greed, for survival. He wanted someone to survive, she said slowly. Someone who needed it. And what do you need? Jennifer looked around the small office, at the facility that had become their home, at the boxes of fortune hidden under broken concrete. I need my daughter to live. Everything else is secondary. Then that's where we start, Winters said. The transformation began immediately, though quietly. Winters worked with frightening efficiency. Within 48 hours, he'd established the Chen Family Trust, hired a security company that sent 2 guards to watch the facility 24/7, and connected Jennifer with Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, a tax attorney who specialized in exactly these situations. Dr. Okonkwo was direct. The IRS is going to audit you. They're going to question everything. We need documentation for every single stone. When your uncle acquired it. How? Proof of ownership. The ledgers help. But we need more. They found more. In another hidden safe, Uncle Ray had kept decades of business correspondence, shipping manifests, purchase orders. He'd been meticulous, paranoid even, documenting everything. It painted a clear picture. He'd operated a legitimate diamond sorting business until 1987, when the industry shifted and demand dropped. Rather than close down, he'd transitioned to quietly acquiring and storing industrial diamonds, buying from dealers going out of business, from estate sales, from facilities upgrading to newer materials. Everything was legal. Everything was documented. Uncle Ray had been building a collection, not committing theft. But the authentication process was grueling. Dr. Webb brought in a team from the Gemological Institute of America. They spent 2 weeks examining every stone, every coin, every certificate. Jennifer watched them work, feeling increasingly anxious. She hadn't told the hospital about the money yet. Couldn't. Not until it was real. Not until she actually had access to funds. Lily's next treatment was in 4 days. And the hospital had made it clear: pay or postpone. Jennifer had $180 from Uncle Ray's wallet and $127.33 in her account. $307.33 total. The treatment cost $8,000. On the 3rd day of authentication, Jennifer broke down in the office. Winters found her crying, Lily asleep on the cot beside her. "I can't pay for her treatment," Jennifer sobbed. "I'm sitting on $391, $1 million, and I can't pay for her treatment because it's not liquid, it's not real, it's just stones in boxes." "Stop," Winters said firmly. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Sarah, it's Tom. We need an emergency advance." "Yes, I understand the trust isn't finalized, but I'm authorizing a personal loan to Miss Chen against future proceeds. $50,000. Yes, I'm aware. This afternoon." He hung up. "We'll have $50,000 in your account by 4 p.m. That covers treatment and gives you breathing room. I can't let you. You're not letting me do anything. This is a loan against assets you legally own. When the collection is sold, you'll pay me back with minimal interest." "Standard procedure." Jennifer couldn't speak. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. That afternoon, Lily received her treatment. Jennifer sat in the hospital room, watching the poison drip into her daughter's veins, knowing it was also keeping her alive, and for the first time in months, she wasn't terrified they'd be kicked out before the IV bag was empty. The nurse was the same one who'd been quietly kind for weeks, slipping them extra crackers and juice boxes. She noticed the bill had been paid. "You got help," she said softly. "Yeah," Jennifer whispered. "We got help." The authentication was completed after 3 weeks. Dr. Webb delivered his report in person. Jennifer, Winters, and Dr. Okonkwo sat in the facility office as Webb read the findings. Total authenticated value, $394.2 million. Slightly higher than your uncle's estimate, because several stones were more valuable than he'd assessed. The collection is legitimate, properly documented, and legally yours. Jennifer felt dizzy. $394.2 million. It was real. "What happens now?" she asked. Dr. Okonkwo took over. "Now we file with the IRS and California Franchise Tax Board. We declare this as found property, which is taxable income. After federal and state taxes, you're looking at approximately $220 million net. Still incomprehensible. We're also going to recommend you sell through private sale rather than auction. Auctions attract attention media, competitors, criminals. Private sales are discreet. Dr. Webb has contacts with buyers who would pay top dollar for a collection like this." Webb nodded. "I've already had preliminary conversations. There's significant interest. We could move 25% of the collection within 60 days for approximately $98 million. That gives you immediate liquidity while we negotiate sales for the remainder." Jennifer tried to process this. "So, I'd have $98 million. Soon. Minus taxes and fees, yes. Roughly $55 million available within 90 days. $55 million. Enough to pay every medical bill. Enough to buy a house. Enough to never worry about money again." "What would my uncle want me to do?" Jennifer asked suddenly. The room fell silent. Finally, Winters spoke. "I think he'd want you to survive. To take care of Lily. Beyond that, That's up to you. Jennifer thought about the journal, about Uncle Ray living alone in this building for decades, about the fortune he'd protected but never used. I want to do something good with it, she said. Not all of it, but something that would matter. Like what? Dr. Okonkwo asked. Jennifer looked at Lily sleeping on the cot, her small body so fragile. I want to help other families like us, kids with cancer whose parents can't afford treatment. I want to create a fund, something real, something that saves lives. Webb smiled. That's a beautiful legacy. That's what Uncle Ray would want, Jennifer said quietly. He didn't need the money. He just needed to know it would go to someone who'd use it right. The news broke 3 weeks later, though they'd tried to prevent it. A reporter somehow found out about the authentication and published a story. Homeless mother inherits condemned building, discovers $394 M diamond fortune. The facility was swarmed within hours. News vans, photographers, reporters, shouting questions. Jennifer didn't answer. The security guards earned their pay that day, keeping everyone off the property while Jennifer and Lily hid in the office. The story went viral. Modern-day treasure hunt, the headline said. Rags to riches. The homeless heiress. It was overwhelming. Terrifying. Jennifer stopped reading the news, stopped answering her phone, except for numbers she recognized. But some attention was good. Within a week, she was contacted by 3 major philanthropic organizations wanting to help her establish the medical fund she'd mentioned. A lawyer specializing in charitable foundations reached out pro bono. And dozens of families sent messages sharing their own stories of children with cancer, of medical bankruptcy, of choosing between treatment and rent. Jennifer read every message. She cried over most of them. 6 weeks after authentication, the first sale went through. $98 million for 25% of the collection, paid by a consortium of industrial manufacturers. After taxes, fees, and paying back Winter's loan, Jennifer had $54.3 million in her account. She sat in the bank with Lily, staring at the number on the screen, unable to believe it was real. Can we buy a house now? Lily asked. Yeah, baby, Jennifer whispered. We can buy a house. They found one in Sacramento, nothing extravagant, just a 3-bedroom home with a yard and a tree. $480,000. Jennifer paid cash. They moved in 2 weeks later. Lily got her own room. She decorated it with rainbows and stars. She hung pictures of the families they'd met through the foundation on her wall. These are my friends, she told Jennifer, the ones we're helping. Because Jennifer had kept her promise, she'd established the Lily Chen Medical Fund with an initial endowment of $20 million. The fund covered treatment costs for children with cancer whose families couldn't afford care. No questions asked. No bureaucracy. Just help. The first family they helped was Maria Santos, a single mother in Oakland with a 6-year-old son who had leukemia. Maria had been living in her car. Her son needed treatment she couldn't afford. The hospital was preparing to discharge him. Jennifer called Maria personally. Your son's treatment is covered. All of it. The fund will pay. Maria had sobbed so hard she couldn't speak. Within 6 months, the fund had helped 47 families. Within a year, 132. Jennifer hired staff oncology social workers, medical case managers, fundraising professionals. The fund grew, raised additional money from donors inspired by the story. By year 2, they were helping over 200 families annually. And Lily's cancer went into remission. The doctors said it was the treatment, the consistent care she'd finally been able to receive without interruption or worry. Jennifer said it was hope, having a home, having stability, having a future to believe in. The facility remained standing, though empty now. The diamonds were gone, sold over 2 years, to private buyers who valued discretion. The total came to $397.8 million. After taxes, Jennifer netted $218 million. She kept $50 million for herself and Lily enough for a lifetime of security. She put another $50 million into the medical fund, ensuring it would operate forever. The remaining $118 million she divided among several causes: pediatric cancer research, housing assistance for homeless families, and an endowment for a research center studying industrial diamonds and their applications in medical technology. Uncle Ray's legacy wasn't just survival, it was healing. 3 years after inheriting the collapsed facility, Jennifer stood in the same spot where she'd first discovered the diamonds. The building was scheduled for demolition. Next month, it was too damaged to save, but she'd wanted to see it one more time. Thomas Winters walked up beside her. He'd become more than her lawyer. He was a friend. "Quite a journey," he said. "I still can't believe it was real." "It was real. It is real. Look at what you've built." Jennifer thought about the families they'd helped, about Lily, healthy now, thriving in school, volunteering at the fund's office on weekends, about the research center that was developing new cancer treatments, about Uncle Ray's journal, which she kept in a frame in her office at home, not for greed, for survival. "He was right," Jennifer said. "The real treasure wasn't the diamonds." "What was it?" Jennifer smiled. "Having something worth protecting, and knowing when to share it." A car pulled up Lily with Rita, who'd become like a grandmother to them. Lily jumped out and ran over, her hair growing back in soft, dark curls. "Mom," Rita says, "we can go to the new playground." "Can we?" Jennifer hugged her daughter. "Yeah, baby. We can do anything now." As they walked back to the car, Jennifer looked back at the facility one last time. It was just a broken building, collapsed roof, crumbling walls, weeds growing through concrete. But for a brief moment, it had been everything. It had been shelter. It had been hope. It had been the answer to prayers she didn't know how to pray. And hidden beneath its broken floor had been the means to save not just her daughter's life, but hundreds of other children's lives too. Uncle Ray had protected his collection for 40 years, waiting for someone who needed it, someone who would use it not for greed, but for survival. Not just their own survival, but the survival of everyone they could reach. Jennifer had been that someone, and she'd made sure his 40 years of lonely protection meant something. The facility would be demolished. The diamonds were gone. But the legacy, the real treasure, would live on in every child who received treatment they couldn't afford, in every family who didn't have to choose between medicine and rent, in every mother who didn't have to sleep in her car, wondering how much longer she could hold on. That legacy was worth more than $394 million. That legacy was priceless. Jennifer drove away from the facility for the last time, Lily singing in the back seat. And for the first time in 4 years, she felt something she'd forgotten existed. Peace. Not just the absence of fear, but the presence of purpose. They'd survived. More than survived. They'd learned what mattered, and they'd used what they'd been given to help others survive too. The collapsed building became rubble, but what it had protected, what Uncle Ray had carefully, deliberately, patiently guarded for decades, transformed lives. And that, Jennifer understood as she drove home with her healthy daughter, was exactly what treasure was meant to do. The demolition was scheduled for March 15th. Jennifer stood with Lily and Rita, watching the crew set up equipment around the facility. The building that had saved their lives would be gone by sunset. "Mom, are you sad?" Lily asked. Jennifer considered the question. Was she sad? The building had been dangerous, unstable, barely habitable, but it had also been their miracle. "I'm grateful," she said finally. "That building gave us everything when we had nothing." A man approached from the demolition crew. He was in his 50 seconds, with weathered hands and kind eyes. "Miss Chen, I'm Frank Morrison, site supervisor. Before we start, I wanted to ask, is there anything you want salvaged? Sometimes, folks like to keep a piece of the original structure." Sentimental reasons. Jennifer thought about it. "The door to the office. The one where we lived those first weeks. Can you save that?" "Absolutely. We'll have it cleaned up and delivered to your address." After Frank left, Rita squeezed Jennifer's hand. "You've come so far. Raymond would be proud." "You knew him?" Jennifer asked, surprised. Rita smiled. "Not well, but he'd come into town once a month for supplies. Always paid cash. Always polite but distant. Once I saw him buying children's books. I asked who they were for, and he said, 'For someone I'll never meet. Someone who might need them someday.'" She looked at Lily. "I think they were for her." Jennifer felt tears sting her eyes. Uncle Ray had been preparing. Even then. Even before she'd inherited anything. Before Lily was sick. Before their world fell apart. He'd been hoping someone in his family would need what he'd protected. The bulldozers started their work at 10 a.m. The building came down in stages. First, the collapsed sections, then the walls, finally, the floor. Jennifer watched crews carefully extract the concrete panels where the diamonds had been hidden, examining each cavity before crushing the concrete. They found something. A worker called Frank over, and Frank called Jennifer. She walked to the site, heart pounding. Beneath the 7th panel, one she'd never opened, was another metal box, smaller than the others. When they brought it up, Jennifer saw it was marked with a single word in Uncle Ray's handwriting: letters. She took it back to the car and opened it while Lily and Rita watched. Inside were envelopes, dozens of them, addressed but never sent. To David Chen, to Rebecca Chen, to Jennifer Chen, her father, her mother, herself. Jennifer opened the one addressed to her with shaking hands. The letter was dated 6 months before Uncle Ray's death. "Dear Jennifer, I've never met you, but I've watched from a distance. I saw the announcement when you were born. I saw your graduation photo in the newspaper. I know about your daughter Lily. I know you work in dentistry. I know more than a stranger should. Your father and I had a falling out decades ago. I made choices he couldn't understand. I chose solitude and preparation over family and comfort. He thought I was paranoid. Maybe I was, but I was also right. The world is uncertain. Safety is temporary. The people we love are vulnerable. And when crisis comes, and it always comes, we need resources to survive. I built this collection for that crisis, not for myself. I don't need luxury or comfort. I built it for family, for someone who would face darkness and need light, someone who would struggle and need help, someone who would use what I've protected to do something that matters. If you're reading this, you've found it. That means you needed it, and that means I succeeded. Don't feel guilty for taking it. Don't apologize for needing help. We're family. This is what family does. We protect each other across time and distance, even when we never meet. Use it wisely. Help your daughter. Help yourself. And if you can, help others who face what you've faced. I'm sorry I never knew you. I'm sorry I chose isolation over connection. But I'm grateful you found what I left behind. You were always meant to have this. Uncle Ray. Jennifer read the letter 3 times, crying openly. Lily leaned against her. Rita put an arm around her shoulders. "He loved you," Rita said softly. "In his own way." "I never knew him," Jennifer whispered. "He knew you. That was enough for him." Jennifer opened the other letters. The one to her father apologized for their estrangement, explained his choices, expressed regret for missed time. The one to her mother thanked her for loving David, for giving him the family Ray had been too afraid to be part of. Each letter was a window into a lonely man who'd loved deeply but from a distance, who'd protected ferociously but silently, who'd sacrificed connection for what he believed was a greater good. Jennifer kept every letter. She had them framed and hung them in the foundation's office. Visitors would read them and understand the Lily Chen Medical Fund wasn't just about money. It was about family protecting family, even across generations, even across silence. The facility came down completely by 3 p.m., where a massive building had stood. There was now just cleared land and piles of debris. The demolition crew would spend the next week hauling everything away. By month's end, the lot would be empty. "What will you do with the land?" Frank asked, as he presented Jennifer with the salvaged office door. She hadn't decided. 4 acres in Marysville. Not valuable, not prime real estate, just empty land that had once held secrets. "I need to think about it," she said. That night, Jennifer sat in her home office, a luxury she still wasn't used to, and researched the area around the facility. Marysville was struggling economically. The downtown was half empty. The schools were underfunded. Families were moving away, looking for opportunities elsewhere. An idea began forming. The next morning she called Dr. Okonkwo. "The land where the facility was, can I develop it? You own it free and clear. You can do whatever you want with it." "What if I wanted to build something? Something for the community?" "Like what?" Jennifer took a breath. "A medical clinic. Free services for uninsured families. Pediatric focus, especially cancer screening and treatment support. Space for counseling, case management, maybe even temporary housing for families traveling for treatment." Dr. Okonkwo was quiet for a moment. "That's ambitious and expensive. I have the money." "You do. But Jennifer, you need to think carefully about this. The fund is already doing incredible work. Are you sure you want to take on more?" Jennifer thought about the facility, about the broken building that had sheltered them when nothing else would, about Uncle Ray, who'd spent 40 years protecting resources for a purpose he'd never lived to see fulfilled. "I'm sure," she said, "that land gave us everything. It should keep giving." The Raymond Chen Memorial Clinic broke ground 8 months later. Jennifer hired local contractors, brought jobs to Marysville, involved the community in every decision. The building was designed to be welcoming bright colors, large windows, gardens that Rita volunteered to maintain. It opened 14 months after demolition of the facility. The first day, over 100 families came for services. Free checkups, cancer screenings, dental work. Jennifer made sure of that, remembering her former career. Counseling for parents struggling with medical crises, case managers to help navigate insurance and billing, and in the lobby, a wall of photos. Uncle Ray in his younger days, the facility in its working years, the letters he'd written, the story of the discovery, and beneath it all, a plaque. "This clinic stands where Raymond Chen protected a legacy for 40 years. His sacrifice gave his family hope when they had none. His gift now extends that hope to everyone who walks through these doors. Treasure is not what we keep, it is what we share." Lily cut the ribbon at the opening ceremony. She was 9 now, her hair fully grown back, her cancer in remission. She wore a dress covered in stars and spoke into a microphone that had to be lowered for her height. "When my mom and I were homeless, we thought nobody cared about us," she said, her voice small but steady. "We thought we were invisible, but we weren't invisible to Uncle Ray. He cared about us, even though he never met us. He protected something for us, even though he didn't know if we'd ever find it." She looked at the crowd, hundreds of people from Marysville and surrounding towns. "Now, we want to care about you. We want to protect you. We want to make sure no family feels invisible the way we did." The applause was thunderous. Jennifer watched her daughter with pride so fierce it hurt. This child who'd been so sick, so fragile, was now strong enough to give hope to others. After the ceremony, families toured the clinic. Jennifer walked through the halls, watching children play in the waiting room. Parents meet with counselors. Nurses explain services. It was real. It was working. A woman approached her young, maybe 25, with a toddler on her hip. "Miss Chen, I'm Amanda Reeves. My son Noah has neuroblastoma. We can't afford his treatment. I heard about your fund and I thought maybe." She couldn't finish. She was crying too hard. Jennifer put her arms around her. "Noah's treatment is covered. All of it. No questions asked. You focus on being his mom. We'll handle everything else." Amanda collapsed against her. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me. Thank a man named Raymond Chen, who understood what it meant to have nothing and need everything." Stories like Amanda's multiplied. The clinic saw 50 patients a day within a month, 100 a day within 6 months. They had to expand, add staff, extend hours. Jennifer funded it all, never hesitating, never counting the cost. The fund itself continued growing. Other wealthy donors were inspired by Jennifer's story and contributed. Major corporations made Jennifer their charity of choice. Within 3 years, the Lily Chen Medical Fund had an endowment of $120 million and was helping over 400 families annually. Jennifer was invited to speak at conferences, to testify before Congress about healthcare costs, to advise nonprofits on effective giving. She was offered book deals, movie rights, speaking fees that made her dizzy. She declined most of it. She wasn't interested in fame. She was interested in results. But she did accept one speaking engagement at the Gemological Institute of America, where Dr. Webb had authenticated Uncle Ray's collection. She spoke to a room full of gemologists, dealers, and industry professionals about industrial diamonds, about the man who'd spent his life understanding their value, and about the treasure that value had created. "My uncle saw something most people missed," she told them. "He saw that these stones, these industrial diamonds that weren't pretty enough for jewelry, weren't flashy enough for display, had immense value, not just monetary value, but protective value. He accumulated them slowly, patiently, understanding that someday they would matter." She paused. "We all have the ability to accumulate value, not just in money or possessions, but in kindness, in preparation, in caring about people we'll never meet." My uncle accumulated stones, but what he really accumulated was hope. Hope that someday, someone would need what he'd protected, and when that day came, his preparation would matter. The audience was silent. "I'm asking you to think about what you're accumulating. What are you protecting for people you'll never meet? What legacy are you building that might save someone decades from now?" She received a standing ovation. Afterward, people came up sharing their own stories of family members who'd prepared, who'd sacrificed, who'd built something larger than themselves. An elderly man approached last. He was frail, using a cane, but his eyes were sharp. "Miss Chen, I'm Edward Martinez. I worked with your uncle in the 1980 seconds when we were both in the diamond sorting business." Jennifer's heart jumped. "You knew him?" "A bit. We weren't close. Ray didn't let anyone get close, but we'd talk sometimes. About the industry, about where it was headed. He was brilliant, you know. Saw trends before anyone else. When facilities started closing, he started buying." "Did you know what he was building?" Edward smiled. "I suspected. He'd come to auctions, pay cash for lots nobody else wanted. Always industrial grade, always carefully selected. I asked him once what he was doing with it all. He said, 'Protecting the future.' I thought he meant the industry's future. Now I understand he meant your future." Jennifer felt tears coming. "I wish I'd known him. He knew you. That's what mattered to him. He'd show me newspaper clippings sometimes. Your achievements, your daughter's birth announcement. He was proud of you, even from a distance. Why didn't he reach out? Edward sighed. Fear, maybe. Shame. He'd cut himself off from family for so long. I think he didn't know how to reconnect. But he never stopped caring. Everything he did was for you. They talked for another hour. Edward shared stories of Uncle Ray's meticulous nature, his dark humor, his surprising kindness, how he'd once paid off a colleague's medical debt anonymously, how he'd funded a scholarship for workers' children at facilities going bankrupt. He wasn't cold, Edward said. He was careful. He was protecting himself and others in the only way he knew how. By being prepared. By accumulating resources. By hoping someone would use them wisely. When Edward left, he pressed a business card into Jennifer's hand. If you ever want to talk about Ray, about the industry, about those days, call me. I think he'd want someone to remember him as more than just the man who hid diamonds. Jennifer kept that card in her wallet. She did call Edward several times over the following years. He became a friend, a link to Uncle Ray, a voice that helped her understand the complex man who'd changed her life. The years accumulated like Uncle Ray's diamonds, slowly, steadily, each one adding value. Lily grew into a remarkable teenager. At 14, she testified before the state legislature about healthcare access. At 16, she interned at the clinic. At 17, she announced she wanted to become a pediatric oncologist. I want to save other kids, she told Jennifer. The way I was saved. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. You were always going to be okay. No, Mom, I wasn't. Without Uncle Ray, without the diamonds, without you finding them and using them right, I wasn't going to make it. We both know that. It was true. The hospital had been days from discharging Lily when Jennifer found the diamonds. The cancer was aggressive. Without consistent treatment, the doctors said she'd have had months. But with treatment, with stability, with hope, Lily thrived. She'd been cancer-free for 7 years. The doctors said the prognosis was excellent. Uncle Ray saved us, Jennifer said softly. And now we're saving others. That's how treasure works, right? It keeps moving, keeps helping. Jennifer had never thought of it that way, but Lily was right. The diamonds had moved from mines to factories, to Uncle Ray's collection, to Jennifer's hands, to medical treatments and clinics and research. The value kept transforming, kept multiplying, kept saving lives. Treasure wasn't static. It was kinetic. It moved through the world, doing good. Or it stayed still and died. Uncle Ray had understood that. He'd kept the diamonds moving in the only way he knew how, protecting them until someone could use them to protect others. On what would have been Uncle Ray's 75th birthday, Jennifer organized a memorial service. She invited everyone whose lives he'd touched: Edward Martinez, the workers from the old facility who could still be found, families helped by the fund, staff from the clinic, community members from Marysville. Over 300 people attended. They gathered at the clinic, in the gardens Rita had planted, under a sky so blue it hurt to look at. Jennifer stood at a podium with Lily beside her. Raymond Chen lived 62 years. He spent 40 of them alone, protecting something he'd never use, preparing for a crisis he'd never see. To most people, that sounds like a wasted life. But standing here, looking at all of you, the families whose children received treatment, the parents who didn't have to choose between medicine and rent, the kids who have hope because Uncle Ray had foresight, I know his life wasn't wasted. She looked at a photo of Uncle Ray they'd enlarged and mounted him in his 42nds, standing outside the facility, unsmiling but solid. He was lonely. He was isolated. He made choices that cost him connection. But he never stopped protecting the people he loved, even from a distance, even in silence. So today, we honor him not by being sad about the life he didn't live, but by celebrating what his life made possible. We honor him by continuing the work, by protecting each other, by preparing for the crises we can't prevent, by using what we have to help others survive what we've survived. Thomas Winters spoke next, sharing legal stories of Uncle Ray's fastidious preparation. Dr. Webb talked about the extraordinary quality of the collection. Rita shared memories of the quiet man who bought children's books for a niece he'd never meet. And then Lily stepped forward. She was tall now, confident, her voice strong. "I never met my great-great-uncle Ray, but he saved my life. He saved my mom's life. And through the fund and the clinic, he's saved hundreds of other lives too." She pulled out a piece of paper. "I wrote him a letter. I know he can't read it, but I wanted to share it anyway." She read, "Dear Uncle Ray, I'm alive because of you. Not just because of the diamonds, but because you understood something important, that family takes care of family, even across time, even across distance, even when we never meet. You taught me that preparation isn't paranoia, that resources protect people, and that the best treasure is the kind you give away. Thank you for seeing us before we existed. Thank you for protecting us before we needed protection. Thank you for believing someone would use your gift to do good. I promise we'll keep doing good. I promise your sacrifice meant something. I promise you're not forgotten." There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. After the service, people planted trees in Uncle Ray's memory. 40 trees, one for each year, he spent protecting his collection. They circled the clinic, creating a living memorial that would grow and provide shade and beauty for generations. Jennifer planted the last tree with Lily's help. As they patted dirt around the roots, Jennifer whispered, "Thank you, Uncle Ray, for everything." She felt Lily's hand slip into hers. "Mom, do you think he knows what we did with what he left us?" Jennifer looked at the clinic, at the families coming and going, at the trees that would grow tall and strong. "I think he knew before we did. I think that's why he prepared." The years continued their steady accumulation. The fund helped its 1,000th family, then its 2,000th. The clinic expanded to include mental health services, dental care, vision screening. A second clinic opened in Sacramento, then a third in Fresno. Jennifer turned 35, then 40. Lily graduated high school as valedictorian, earned a full scholarship to Stanford, excelled in pre-med. She spent summers volunteering at the clinic, winters doing research at cancer centers. And Jennifer continued the work. She never remarried. Her life was full enough with Lily and the foundation. She never moved to a mansion or bought luxury cars. She lived simply in their 3-bedroom house, drove a practical sedan, dressed in clothes from normal stores. People asked why. Why not enjoy the wealth? "I am enjoying it," she'd say. "Every family we help, every child who gets treatment, every parent who doesn't have to sleep in their car, that's me enjoying it. That's the wealth being used right." On the 10-year anniversary of discovering the diamonds, Jennifer was invited back to Marysville for a city celebration. The town had transformed. New businesses had opened, drawn by the clinic's presence. Young families were moving in. The downtown was revitalized. Property values had increased. The mayor presented Jennifer with a key to the city. 10 years ago, Marysville was dying. Today, we're thriving. And it's because one woman chose to invest in us, to see value where others saw nothing, to believe our community was worth saving. Jennifer accepted the key but deflected the praise. "I didn't save Marysville. You saved yourselves. I just provided resources. You did the work." After the ceremony, she drove to the land where the facility had stood. The clinic now occupied half the property. The other half had been converted into a community garden and playground. Children played on swings. Families tended vegetable plots. The trees they'd planted 10 years ago were tall now, providing shade. Jennifer sat on a bench installed with a plaque reading, "In memory of Raymond Chen, who prepared for the future and watched the activity." This land had been her lowest point. The place where she'd arrived, desperate and broken. The place where her daughter had coughed in her sleep, and Jennifer had wondered if they'd survive the week. Now, it was filled with life and hope and possibility. "We did it, Uncle Ray," she whispered. "We took what you protected and turned it into something beautiful." A woman sat down beside her young, maybe 20, with a baby in a stroller. "Excuse me, are you Jennifer Chen?" Jennifer nodded. "I am. I'm Sarah. My daughter Emma has leukemia. Your fund covered her treatment last year. She just went into remission." Jennifer felt the familiar surge of emotion. "That's wonderful. How is she?" "Perfect. Growing. Happy." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how to thank you. We were so scared. We didn't know what to do. And then we got the call that everything was covered. And it was like someone saw us. Like someone cared." "Someone did care," Jennifer said. "A man named Raymond Chen. He cared about people he'd never meet, including me and my daughter. And now, we care about people we'll never meet, including Emma. That's how it works." Sarah looked at the clinic, at the garden, at the children playing. He must have been an amazing person. Jennifer thought about Uncle Ray, isolated, lonely, paranoid in some ways, but also careful, thoughtful, deeply loving in his own way. He was complicated, but he was good, and he understood something important, that we protect each other, even across time, even in silence. They sat together watching families enjoy the space Uncle Ray's sacrifice had created, and Jennifer understood, truly, finally understood, why he'd lived the way he had. He hadn't been running from life. He'd been preparing for it. For the moment when someone would need what he'd protected. For the moment when his lifetime of careful accumulation would save someone else's life. That moment had come, and Jennifer had been ready to receive it, to honor it, to multiply it. The treasure had moved through her hands and into the world, transforming everything it touched, just as Uncle Ray had intended, just as it was always meant to do. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.